The Book of Abraham Translation. The Book of Abraham Translation is a complex issue that reveals significant discrepancies between Joseph Smith's claims and historical evidence. It begins with Smith's acquisition of several Egyptian papyri and mummies in Kirtland, Ohio, in the early 1830s. Smith asserted that these artifacts contain the writings of the ancient patriarch Abraham himself, written by his own hand. According to Smith, he translated these writings into what is now known as the Book of Abraham, a sacred text considered canonical by the LDS Church. Additionally, the papyri contain several illustrations known as facsimiles, which Smith also purportedly translated, providing interpretations and explanations for their significance. However, the credibility of Smith's translation was called into question when portions of the original papyri resurfaced in the 1960s. Egyptologists who examined these fragments determined them to be standard Egyptian funerary texts, commonly known as the Book of Breathings or the Breathing Permit of Horror. None of the content matched Smith's translation of the Book of Abraham, and the facsimiles bore no resemblance to his interpretations. It should also be noted that the Church has in its possession the print plates for the facsimiles, and on the plate for facsimile 3 is apparently the carved snout of Anubis, suggesting Smith manipulating the papyri character to better fit his narrative. Compounding the issue was Smith's Egyptian alphabet and grammar, a document he created in conjunction with the papyri. This document purported to provide the key to understanding Egyptian characters and language, with specific references to passages in the papyri. However, modern linguistic analysis has shown Smith's interpretations to be entirely inaccurate, further undermining the credibility of his translation efforts. The bigger issue is that it pinpoints the very place within the papyri that Smith was translating from, running counter to the apologetic reconciliation that there must still be a missing scroll that is separate from these papyri, that must contain Abraham's writings. The Church admits in its Gospel Topics essay on the issue that none of the characters on the papyrus fragments mentioned Abraham's name or any of the events recorded in the Book of Abraham. Latter-day Saint and non-Latter-day Saint Egyptologists agree that the characters on the fragments do not match the translation given in the Book of Abraham. In response to these discrepancies, the LDS Church formulated an apologetic explanation known as the catalyst theory. This theory posits that the papyri served merely as a catalyst for Smith's revelatory process rather than containing the actual text of the Book of Abraham. According to this perspective, Smith's translation was not dependent on the literal content of the papyri, but rather on divine inspiration, received through an act of revelation, having nothing to do with translating the papyri. While the catalyst theory attempts to reconcile the disparities between Smith's translation and the historical evidence, it amounts to moving the goalposts and effectively renders Smith's claims unfalsifiable. By asserting that the translation occurred through revelation rather than through a direct translation of the papyri text and facsimiles, the faithful explanation becomes indistinguishable from a fraudulent one, as it distances the LDS Church's stance from the specific details Smith imposed on the translation process. In essence, the Book of Abraham translation underscores the complexities of reconciling religious belief with historical evidence. The discrepancies between Smith's claims and empirical data highlight the challenges of maintaining faith in the face of advancements in the sciences and social sciences.